I request Mr. Vibhu to welcome formally to the audience. Yeah.
Good evening, one and all. Indeed, I'm very happy today to see the hall packed, and in fact, today is the first of the programs we are having in this hall after the renovation, in the sense of a panel discussion like this. So, and what a day to begin with 4 eminent speakers on a subject that is of very relevance in today's modern times. They will be formally introduced later, but may I welcome Mr. James Verghese, IAS, former Additional Chief Secretary, and currently member of the Appellate Tribunal of the Kerala. Mr. Aju Verghese, as you all know, the Synthite Group is one of the most respected. I'm sorry, Aju Jacob. I was continuing after James. Aju is a good friend of mine, but I missed it. Yeah. Aju, thank you so much for having come here. Welcome you. Aju is the Joint Managing Director of the Synthite Group of companies, multifaceted group, as we all know, and they control about, if I'm not wrong, 30% of the oleoresin market in the world. So that's Aju for you. And Mr. Adi Keshav, and another eminent person, he's not here today. He's one of the most eminent bankers of our times, ex-general manager of the State Bank of India, and he's here to speak to us on this subject. Welcome you, sir. And Mr. Jose Correa, again, I think I did not introduce him perhaps because he is a columnist, he is a great journalist, but more than that, I would know him more as the person who expresses his views all the time on the social media through his commentary or through his clippings called geometric. I'm sure that the younger generation definitely knows him. Welcome you, sir. Once again, I welcome all the past presidents, President, Senior Vice President A. Balakrishnan, members of the committee, friends, all members, student members, all of you who are listening from the other halls too in the building. We welcome you all. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President, for that welcome address. Moderator of this evening, Mr. James Verghese, IAS, former Additional Chief Secretary, Government of Kerala. Panelists, Mr. Joe A. Scaria, Kerala, Correspondent, Gulf News, Dubai. Mr. Aju Jacob, Joint Managing Director, Synthite Industries Limited. Mr. Adi Keshav, yes, Chief General Manager, Retired State Bank of India. Mr. Vibhu Punuran, Vice President and Chairman Program Committee, Mr. A. Balakrishnan, Senior Vice President, Honorary Secretary, Mr. R.G.S. Khalid, Executive Committee members, Managing Committee members, past presidents, KMA members, students, ladies and gentlemen. Kerala Management Association has been spearheading management movement since 1957. We have been organizing several programs for our members week after week. This is the second panel discussion of the year, and both are organized by our dynamic Senior Vice President, Mr. A. Balakrishnan, and Program Committee Chair, Mr. Vibhu Punuran. Congratulations to both of you. I would like to thank all our members who are religiously following our programs and for your presence this evening. 22-20 supported gains from supply side reforms and easing of regulations, robust export growth, and availability of fiscal space to ramp up capital spending. The year ahead is well poised for a pickup in private sector investment with the financial system. Is over the course of year. Projects India as the fastest growing major economy in the world till 2023-24. The industrial sector went through a sharp rebound. The manufacturing, construction, and mining sectors went through the same swing. The service sector has been the hardest hit by the pandemic, especially segments that involve human contact. It should be noted that there is a wide dispersion of performance by different subsectors. Both the finance, real estate, and public administration segments are now well above pre-COVID levels. However, segments like travel, trade, and hotels are yet to fully recover. There has been a boom in software and IT-enabled services exports, even as earnings from tourism have declined sharply. On the exports and imports front, India's exports of both goods and services has been remarkably strong so far. To dwell upon this topic, new global economic order and its socio-economic impact in India, we have eminent moderator and three panelists. Our moderator, Mr. James Verghese, IAS, panelist, Mr. Adikeshwan AS, Mr. Aju Jacob, and Mr. Joe S. Scaria. These four highly knowledgeable persons will take us through the nuances of today's topic. Hope it will be an enriching session for all present here. Now, to formally introduce the moderator and the panelist, I invite our Senior Vice President, who is also passionate about the topic and personally follows the trends in this field. Our Senior Vice President, Mr. A. Balakrishnan, over to you.
President of KLMEC, distinguished guests, office bearers, and respected members of KLMEC, and dear students, a very warm good evening. We just got over from the pandemic. Some of the eminent people are talking about endemic. That means we are just out of the pandemic. However, though there is a rosy picture presented by our president, the global economic scenario is totally different. Global economic activity experiencing sharp slowdown and very high level of inflation. Cost of living has increased in advanced countries. Lot of migration happened. So a lot of economic disadvantage for the global economy. And whereas there is a paradox, India is actually seeing a different trend. For example, yesterday the stock market, the Sensex closed at 61,000 plus. And today's business line, interestingly or coincidentally, gave an interesting editorial that India is reviving a K-shaped recovery for India. And the data really shows interesting information. For example, the high level of high income group, their spending power is increasing. For SUV sale increase, whereas compact car sale decreased. Two-wheeler, their sales decreased. Danish high value jewelry sale increased. whereas below 1 lakh below jewelry sales decreased, and middle class level spending decreasing. CMI report is saying that rural India is suffering for employment, whereas urban India, high income number is increasing. So there is actually a lot of paradox, surprises in the economic parameters, which is unfortunately none of us is unable to understand. That is why we have selected a set of eminent personalities to make this paradox. We had to take the iron out of this particular paradox. So that is the objective of this particular session. Let me introduce the panelists and the moderator. All of them, actually all of you know them very well, but it is a customary and formality that we are supposed to introduce them to the audience. Moderator James Verghese, IAS. He is a 1986 batch IAS. He's a postgraduate in zoology and holds service state bank group covering retail banking, corporate banking, foreign exchange, and a 360-degree of the banking services. Apart from that, he had an international exposure, 4 years representing State Bank in Singapore and led a wonderful team over there. And all of you know that anytime any RBI action comes, first I'll go through the Madhubhumi and Panorama whether allegations have said something or not. So, and he illustrates the complex economic parameters wonderfully well in our vernacular, and that is how the common man understands what exactly is happening in. So all of you know, I am sure that all of you are reading these columns and interesting columnist also. Mr. Joe Scaria, Vibhu already mentioned on the geometry. So before reading out his attribute, geometry, he is actually criticizing establishment, criticize whatever happening. But more than that, it is like a bell curve. At the height of the criticism, then he turned around, take the pearl from the society and highlight that. If you go through any video, if you do that, there will be, he ended with a positive note. There are some good things happening in the society that always he highlights. That is a wonderful video. I am not missing any of them. And he is former senior assistant editor, the Economic Times. You know, Economic Times is world's largest finance newspaper, widely read newspaper, and presently correspondent of Gulf News, Dubai. And he started his career in Indian Express, nearly 2 decades with Economic Times. And he worked in multiple cities, including Kochi, Mumbai, Coimbatore, Trivandrum, Chennai, etc. Presently a faculty member at the Institute of Journalism, Trivandrum, visiting faculty at the Amal Jyoti College of Engineering, Kajirapati, also doing assignment for various corporates and organizations, including MRF, KSIDC, Malabar Gold, Madhubhumi, Times of India, etc. An interesting book he wrote, From Fourth Estate to Rubber Estate. And you know, he is also a planner. He compiled his memory as a journalist. And Mr. Aju Jacob is the joint managing director of Sindite Industries Limited. Sindite is the world's largest producer of value-added spices. And Aju completed his formal education from Kerala. He did his chemical engineering from Bangalore University and a MBA from ISB Hyderabad. He joined Sindite in 1987, a year after graduation, and has been heading the operations of the company since then. I understand that he is a visionary leader and he has market share, the world's largest market share in this particular value-added spices. And the importance of him is he understands the world economics much better than an economist, because he is feeling what is happening in the world market. During his time, the company expanded from a single production unit to one with the operations spread across the globe with more than 10 manufacturing units, and is expanding further in the coming years. He is currently the joint managing director of the company and looks after the strategic growth areas, the new product development and new projects. And Aju is the treasurer of MOSD Hospital College and manager St. Peter's School, Kadairipu. He is also currently vice chairman of CIA Kerala chapter and is actively involved in the activities of the same. That's all from my side. Thank you. James sir, over to you.
Good evening. Thank you very much for the nice words. The management people are always good in selecting the right person as the moderator. The right person is one who talks very little and doesn't have much expertise in the sector, so that the eminent panelists will get enough time. That will happen today also. I will not mince words. Yeah, see, as it was presented, a lot of changes in the economic scenario of the world. The growth rate is going to be one of the lowest in 22 years. Maybe after 2001, this is going to be the lowest. Cost of living, inflation, these things are all going to roar. As was pointed out, India is expected to perform well. But with so much of international pressure, India needs to take mitigatory measures and advanced preparational measures so that these winds of economic things will not affect our country. As we are all aware, a lot of reasons are there for this, changes in the economic scenario. As a matter of fact, after the pandemic, it was slightly looking up and then started downtrend. Maybe the impact of the medical emergency following the pandemic, the war and the supply chain disruptions, the political and economic crisis in UK, the alarming economic conditions in countries like Sri Lanka, and anxiety about the affairs of always cryptic countries like China. Then the impact of climate change, that is also going to affect us. And we are at the last point of return, whereby we have to take urgent measures to control emission. And therefore, we may have to take a lot of hard decisions. As a matter of fact, the World Summit is going on now, and all the countries will have to take a lot of measures to bring down the emission. Therefore, there are a number of factors which may affect the economy world over, which may definitely have some impact on Indian economy as well. Already, there are talks about downtrends in chemical industry and also software industry, and naturally, these are going to affect India. There are a number of strengths for India, definitely, and we may have to capitalize on our strengths and plan for the future. Therefore, this particular program is quite relevant, and I look forward to it with a lot of expectations. Without saying much more, I'll now invite the members of the panel to air their observations, and they may come for a second round. Then we may have questions as well. So I'll invite Mr. Aju Jacob first, Joint Managing Director of Synthite Industries. He may concentrate on the economical, commercial, and certain aspects world over and also in India. And after that, I'll invite Mr. Jose Correa. He may talk about what is happening in the Gulf, which may affect India, and also the sociological and socio-economic impacts of those things. And finally, Mr. S. Adikeshavan, he may concentrate on banking things in the context of what the other panelists are going to present. So I respectfully invite Mr. Aju Jacob to present his views.
Hold on to something. Good evening, everyone. First of all, I thank the IMA office bearers for giving me this opportunity to be among the panelists on a subject. Oh, sorry, sorry. Sorry, I'm sorry about that. So it's a very relevant topic in today's times. And when I was introduced, I was introduced as someone who knows the world economic situation very well. Let me apologize. The fact that Synthite makes food ingredients, and food is something that people avoid the last. So most recessions, most difficult times, people continue to eat. So for the very reason, we have always had the market, whatever happened in the world, whether it be the 2008 recession, or way back in 2001 when we had the meltdown because of the attack in the US. And so, the food industry never suffered so much. So for that very reason, in one way or the other, even during the pandemic, we didn't have a bad time because people were still eating. Instead of going out and eating, they were eating at home. So the food service segment did not grow, but then a lot of the prepared foods and things like that changed. So for that very reason, we are relatively insulated from what happens around the world. For that very reason, we have grown along the way in the last 30, 40 years and consistently grown. And that's not because of any expertise in our understanding of the world economic situation, but purely the fact that we are in that segment. Now, coming very specifically to this particular topic, since we are based in China, we do have an operations in China. I thought it's some of the real hard facts that we face there would be of relevance for me to share, I thought. Then we do have a pretty strong presence in the US and in the countries like Ukraine, where we had active participation. We have a small business in Ukraine. We do a lot of sourcing and the challenges that we face. So I thought, some of these areas which are very relevant is very, very much where Synthite is also present. So my idea is to just share our experiences, what we're facing there, and which has very much relevance to what's happening in today's context. So for us, we have a facility in the northeastern province of Shandong, in a small town called Dezhou. Now, getting from here to Dezhou was 20 hours of total travel. But today it takes 20 days because of the COVID zero policy. It takes 2 stops of 7 days quarantine before you can travel and eventually be at the location. So that's a kind of restriction that China is putting on the travel because of their zero COVID policy. So that again makes it very difficult for us because we do have 3 Indians living there who were all the time in India while the pandemic happened. But since then they've gone back, and it was a 20-day journey for them to be back at our factories and our offices in the last couple of months back when they went back. So this is very relevant for even the Chinese citizens today.
each county, I mean, if there's one person that has got COVID positive, then the entire county is locked down. And if you happen to be in that county at the time and you move to another place, and you have to, I mean, they trace you back because, there's an app that traces you all the time, and you have to be quarantined at that location. You are not allowed to move around. You have to be quarantined 7 days before you can travel back. So with all this happening, definitely the business is very much constrained there. The challenges of actually doing business is pretty hard. That of course reflects on their economy. Their GDP is down to about 4.8%. They were consistently over 6 to 7%, which is now at 4.8%. And the coming years projections are also not very good for the very same reason. And statistics of 2021 states that they lost about $150 billion of exports during that year. Either the business was not there or they lost it to some other countries surely because of the difficulties in the country to do business with. Their unemployment rates at this about 5.8%. For the manufacturing, the retail, and the food service also suffered because of the fact that the lockdown, the food service, which is a very, very big industry and very relevant to us, also suffered big time because of the lockdowns. The transport sector also suffered quite a bit during this period of time. Again, to cite one specific example of what we're experiencing today. I mean, why we are synthesized in China because we process paprika and make a natural food color which is used in coloring food. Paprika is grown in the northwestern province of China, which is Xinjiang, which a lot of you might know, which is the troubled state, and that's one reason why a lot of human rights violations happening, and the West is looking down on China for the very specific reason. Now, in this area, this is one of the less populated places in China. China is, fairly as equally populated as India, but then the northwestern province, because of the difficult weather conditions, is less populated. But a very good, probably it is the bread basket of China in terms of the summertime. From March, April onwards, they have excellent weather. So a lot of agriculture happens in that region. So towards the end of the harvest, towards the time when the crop is ready for harvest, a lot of people move from the south to the north for the harvest. So during this time, even though the crops are being damaged, there's no people movement happening because of the COVID restrictions. So there is no people moving that side for the harvest, and the harvest is getting lost surely because of the zero COVID policy that they have. Now, for the very reason we are going to have difficulty getting enough raw material, which could spiral demand supply situations happening, and the price is also going up. But irrespective, the government is not making any positive move towards changing that situation, which is very surprising. Now, this gets us to believe that unlike other countries which have started increasing their interest rates to sort of slow down the economy or reduce money supply, reduce inflation, China maybe indirectly through the zero COVID policies trying to reduce the economic activity, which again would help them do that. There's one country, China, has not done anything with interest rates. They've not increased interest rates in the last, maybe while India or our other countries have done it, or US, even Britain has increased the interest rate substantially, but China has not done it. But indirectly, probably we are sort of achieving the same results by slowing down the economy by the actions that they're taking. So this is something which will have a big impact worldwide. But one positive that India could have because of this aspect is India could actually gain from this opportunity, because there's, even in our industry, there's a negativity about sourcing from China. So that is where India has the opportunity to gear up our manufacturing capability, our service capabilities to compete. But that again is limited to certain industries, because we are looking at electronics or anything related to software, not software, but anything hardware. China is the biggest source for supplies of chips and various other things. So you can't actually improve our manufacturing competence, because you still have to source a lot of these key components from China. But there are other segments like where there's an opportunity where, especially in our sector, what we see is India, the large-scale agriculture challenges are there because of the limited land holding, and also the fact that agriculture is still not an industry in India. So for that very reason, Africa is seen as a good potential, for Indian companies to go and explore the opportunity, how we can do large-scale farming in Africa and source materials in Africa to be able to support our industry. So we as an organization is making serious efforts in that region to be able to source material from Africa. Now, I thought I'd touch upon a bit about the US and what we've experienced in the US. One aspect, of course, is the fact that the US in the last 2 quarters have had a negative growth in their GDP. But again, is that good sign enough? There's also a question because the very fact that if you look at the unemployment rates in the US have not really come down. I mean, that again is attributed to the fact, as we understand, is while the COVID pandemic was on, there was a lot of money supplied on the market to keep the market buoyant. And a lot of people have, decided not to work. A lot of seniors have decided not to work. And there's I believe, for every person, there's a 1.5 job available. To that extent, the market was very positive. But of late, we do also understand that there are challenges, especially in the software industry. People are looking at laying off people because of the very fact that, there were a lot of overemployment at some point. So that is being considered. So it is difficult to understand whether we are really pushing towards a situation where it's going to be the recession. Definitely the commentators on finance would definitely say that. But in terms of the employment, it's not all that bad. It's only two quarters where we have seen the GDP being negative. These are all factors which we got to really further understand. Again, we as an organization also seeing some impact of it because, again, while we say that food is the one people would try to consume less, not to avoid during a recession, but in case of our ingredients also, we are seeing some challenges in the US. People are pushing out orders, not really committing to their commitments in terms of contracts, surely trying to push the orders out. Also for the fact that there is a challenge in reducing inventory. That is also because of the fact that during the pandemic, there was a huge challenge with respect to the transportation. The freight rates had gone significantly higher during that period of time. The frequencies were much less. And that panicked the world. And also for that very reason, people were overstocking. So there's probably huge inventories that are there in those markets that they are also trying to cut down on those inventories. That could also be the reason why, it's not only for our kind of products, but for everything, because the shipping had severely affected the global market during the pandemic. The second half of the pandemic especially. One was availability, and the other was the freight rates had gone up significantly. So those were also aspects that actually affected the inflationary situation. And then post-pandemic, while we were all just getting out of it, came the war. And with war happening and with the fuel prices going up, in fact, except for countries like one or two countries like India and Russia, most countries are suffering because of the high fuel cost. India took a very strong stand that we would continue to source fuel from Russia, and that we would stay independent of the rest of the world, probably helped India, at least in respect to the fuel, though we are seen in the bad light in some respect, but still, I think it has possibly been beneficial for the country. Now, the similar thing as US, we have also seen that Europe, the food inflation is up to 8 to 9%, which is significant, which they're not familiar with, and the overall inflation is also being high. And the salary is not matching that inflation. There's a concern in Europe. So we are also definitely seeing slowdown that is happening in Europe. Now, some of the challenges that we're facing, the world situation, as I mentioned earlier, is also positively helping India. And it is for us to take this opportunity and be more prudent in our efforts to become a manufacturer, like the Make in India program or the PLI scheme that the government had come out with, very specifically focused on supporting the industry. PLI scheme was something which actually is making a big difference to the industry. Actually, I would not say Blue Horizon, but standard industries where, like for example, the electronic industry or even our industry, there is a lot of initiatives for us to invest big time in making infrastructure that is competent to compete in the world market. and which is supported by the PLI scheme, which is a very positive initiative from the government. And also on the various other sectors where the government has come out with positive support, and there's a constant effort from the government to see India in the light as a manufacturer, not just a service industry, but as a manufacturer. So hopefully those efforts will also give India positive results in the coming years. And a few of the speakers said earlier, like while the rest of the world is struggling, India is seeing some positive light because of these opportunities coming our way, and how well we put our efforts to grab that opportunity and be successful is something that we should work towards. So these are some of the points that I wanted to share, and I definitely would like to listen to the other eminent panelists and at the same time take some questions as we go. Thank you so much.
Good evening, and thank you, KMA, for inviting me. My first panel discussion at KMA. If you've noticed, the moderator has got 3 of us here, panelists, and 2 of them are specialists. And I'm a journalist, meaning a generalist. We are masters of no particular subject. To speak straight from the heart, we bullshit. So these 10 minutes that I hope I take 10 minutes. These 10 minutes will be a lighter part of this panel discussion. Let me see how I can put this across. I see a lot of Gen Zs. Some of you probably are preschool students. So I'm trying to put my message in a way that will appeal to both the seniors here, businessmen, and the preschools, everybody. But one thing about when we talk about the topic as wide as the global economic order, I wonder whether I'm fit enough to speak of that, because it's a vast subject. But one thing I can say is, if we look at the 20th century and the 21st century, in the 20th century, we had certain big mileposts which could be identified. Like we had the First World War, 4 years. The First World War, which was all of 4 years, big milestone. Nobody can forget that. And then we had the Great Recession in the United States in the 1920s. And then in the 40s, we had the Second World War, another 4 years. And then we had in the 1960s, a man on the moon. So those were the kind of milestones of the 20th century. And we had all those big inventions. If we look back at the 19th and 20th centuries, I'm trying to give you a bigger canvas of events in the world so we can better understand the world economic order. If we look back at all those inventions of the last 2 centuries, we had names associated with the inventions. For example, we ask you, somebody asks who invented the telephone, say Alexander Graham Bell. Who invented electricity, say Michael Faraday. Who invented television, and we say John Baird. But today we ask things like who invented WhatsApp? There's no one name. Or who invented social media? There's no single name. The big difference is, in those days, an Alexander Graham Bell would spend 20 years, 25 years working on his project. And after those 2 decades, he'll come out and tell the world that I've got the telephone. Hey man, hello, I've got this. But today it's all teamwork and it happens over time. So we do not even know when we got onto the internet. Many of us would not remember when we got onto Gmail. Since when did you have a Yahoo mail or a Gmail? So that's a big difference. So this century, 21st century, has, I would say, no milestones. There are too many milestones, and they've all been happening like a psychedelic show. They're so fast, nothing is sticking. We started the century with Y2K. Many of you in this room will not remember because you're too young for that. Y2K. And there was a whole industry built around that. There was an IT boom because of Y2K, the year 2000. And then in 2001, we had the World Trade Center collapsing. And then we have had so many things in just 22 years. Many of them very tragic stuff. We had the Gujarat riots. We had the Mumbai terror attacks. We had the 2008 global recession. Banks too big to fail. And we've had one thing after the other. But after all that, and in retrospect, we thought we finally got a grip of the world economic order. So this is how it goes. The US continues to be the big superpower. The other superpower just vanished in the late 1980s, the Soviet Union. And then we have China upcoming. In fact, one big milestone of the 20th century was Deng Xiaoping of the 1979 fame. So we thought we had a grip of the world economic order, and now I can say that this is the world economic order. Now I can see the contours or even the shape of the whole thing emerging. But then we understood nobody of us knew what the world economic order is or what the world order is. Because 2020 we had COVID. And everything that we learned until then went for a big toss, topsy-turvy. And for 2 years, the world was something else. We thought we knew everything. And suddenly we hear names like the Serum Institute of India. How many Indians had heard of an Adar Poonawalla before 2020? And after that, virtually every day for some 700 days, we were hearing his name. And we were fighting each other. People who were 58 were showing they were 60 to get the senior citizens to jump the queue as a senior citizen to get the vaccination. So COVID taught us that the world economic order isn't here to stay as something on a platter. It keeps changing. We're so dynamic from the static 20th century we had. But while we were getting over COVID, we thought, now I know the world economic order. It's going to be like this. US number 1, China number 2, India emerging forever. Never coming out, but we're always emerging, so we always have hope. And then there's a small thing in 2021 showed us we know nothing about the world economy. A ship called Evergiven, owned by the Evergreen company, got stuck in the Suez Canal for about 10 days. The world, transport, shipping, logistics, everything kept to a standstill because a ship was stuck like that in Suez Canal. Until that ship could be moved, and the Suez Canal carries about 50 ships, and has about 50 ships using the canal every day from the Mediterranean to the Red Sea. Very important channel to Asia, and all the consumption happens here because we have the population. So Evergiven gave us another understanding that what we think we know, we actually don't know. The world economic order can go for a toss anytime. So the markers of the 21st century are very, very different from what we learned over the last 200 years. Coming to the 21st century and coming to my point, let me try to put a little bullshit behind me and get to my topic. Is two things that I see. That's the time I'll have to. There are many markers, but two things I see as big in the world economic order is one: for any order to happen, there must be people on Earth. There must be people on Earth. I'm so happy to see this house full, but you don't see house full audiences these days. One, the biggest marker is the population of the world. Today is November 8th, 2022, a Tuesday. Mark the next Tuesday. It's a historic milestone for mankind. Tuesday, 15th November 2022, we'll have the 8 billion child being born on Earth. We will be 8 billion people in the world next Tuesday, according to the population book. Now, what is the meaning we derive from that? We don't immediately understand that, oh, the world population is exploding. Actually, it is plateauing and it is on the brink of decline. And once that happens, that's the biggest marker for everybody, whether you are a businessman, whether you are a teacher, whether you are a doctor, whether you are an aged person, whoever. If there are no people on earth or there's a falling population, it has never happened in humanity's history. We are going to live to see that. If you're going to live another 30 years, we'll actually see populations shrinking. It is so bad today that 8 billion we've reached pretty quickly. 1950, there were only 2.5 billion people on earth. From 2.5 billion, we more than trebled that to 8 billion in just 72 years. Next Tuesday, we will have trebled that from 1950. But that's not the whole picture. The picture is we are at the end of the growth and we're going to fall off a cliff. In 1950, an average woman globally had 5 children. Today, it has dropped to 2.3. This is just about replacement. Just about replacement. There are only 8 countries in the world where children are being born. I'm saying, where population is growing at all. A mere 8 countries in the world has increasing populations, and they are Congo, Ethiopia, Egypt, India, Nigeria, Pakistan, Philippines, Tanzania. Tanzania, Rishi Sunak's maternal grandparents. So then and now people go to Tanzania from India. So these are only 8 countries. Imagine the rest of the world is diminishing. Is simply diminishing and diminishing so fast, we won't see people anywhere. Today we are hanging on to their life with our 10 cents and 12 cents, and I'm taking my neighbor's 2 cents like that when he's sleeping. All that, we won't need any of that because there are not going to be people on earth. And all our GDP growth, everything. When I was a young, preschool student, I used to wonder, we had targets. When you get into a job, you have targets. You're selling washing machines. Your target for this quarter is 72 machines, 72 washing machines. The next quarter, it should be 74 and 80 and 90 and 100. I would think, what will my children do? When they come, their target would be 700. And then their kids would be 10,000. How can you keep on selling more and more, whether it's washing machine or nail polish? There has to be some limit. How many more can you sell? Today, during my lifetime, I'm seeing it. You can't sell any more washing machines because there are no more kids being born. Let me give you the really worrying picture of the economic order in the world because of a shortage of people. South Korea is the worst in terms of fertility. Their fertility is 1.05, meaning every couple has an average of 1.05 children. Now, when say 100 women marry 100 men, we have 200 people. The fertility rate required to maintain a country's population, a society's population, is 2.1 per couple, meaning 200 people must have 210 children because 10 will be lost in accident, disease, whatever. But once that falls below 2.1, then that whole society will shrink. And the whole world is on the brink of that happening, except for these 8 countries. And India is in that group very proudly because we have kids today, your economy is growing. I should also mention that India is one bright spot among this, all this economic gloom worldwide. That's because we have kids. And India is proud only because of 2 states, Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. Kids are being born only in Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. 20 years ago, when you travel by train or you're in a flight, the first thing you looked was, in a train, somebody sitting who is there with 4 kids, all aged, under 6. And they will make such a nuisance for the next 20 hours. You will pray only if only I had got my reservation in some other bogie. Today, if you travel by train, and it has got 25 coaches, you see one child in some bogie walking. Wow, money, come. And everybody is petting the child. Because you don't see children anywhere. For the youth who are sitting here, my request is, the first thing you do after your B school is not get a job, but produce children. Because without the numbers, India will be in the same boat like all the other countries. We are strong because we have the kids. And when we say we, not Kerala, Pathanamthitta district is ahead of much of Europe. They had negative population growth in 2011. In 2011, Pathanamthitta is negative, ahead of multiple European nations. We are worse than South Korea, Kerala, in terms of kids. Bihar and UP are holding us up. In South Korea, 3,500 schools have closed between 1980 and today. 3,500 schools have closed. There are no children. All the equation, the business equation, everything changes if there are no people. So that's marker number one. Marker number two, and by the time my time is out. Marker number two is education and jobs. Now we have 440 million millennials. 440 million millennials in Indian parlance, that is 44 crore people. 44 crore young people. When we say HR is the biggest R, the resource, we are the richest country in the world. We have these 44 crore millennials. And if you take just school children, the data came out just 3 days back. The unified education, whatever, the central government stuff, they put out their report just day before yesterday. We have 260 million school children, 26 crore. Now the number in India, when we live, none of these numbers matter to us because there are 140 crore. So, all these 10 crore, 15 crore and all are small numbers to us, but they are massive for the world. When you say 26 crore school children, the number is bigger than the population of every country in the world except China, India, and US. Only 3 countries in the world, China, India, and the US, have populations more than India's school children. പശ്ചിമബംഗാളത്തിൽ 26 കോടി പിള്ളേർ നമുക്കുണ്ട്. അത്രയും മനുഷ്യർ വേറെ ഒരു രാജ്യത്തില്ല except China, India, US. So we are economically powerful because there are kids. A few years back, a friend of mine went to Vienna, Austria, the capital. So he was telling me, the economy, I see no future for Austria because there are no people there and everybody is 50 plus. The problem is when you don't have kids, there is nobody. When you drink a cup of, when you're drinking milk from a glass, if you have a 2-year-old at home, she is likely to drop it and break it. And then you can go and buy one. So the glass factory will work and there is employment. And so this child will come from school, she'll tear her skirt, he'll tear his bag, or he misses shoes somewhere. So you can buy a pair of shoes again, buy another school bag, buy so much consumption will be there for kids. In Vienna, he says nobody needs to buy anything. Everybody is 50 plus. Everybody, you can wear a shirt for the next 10 years. If you are not going to break your glass every other day. And the roads are so good that the tires don't wear out. You can't sell tires. The car is so good that nothing will happen to it. You don't even need to service it because the roads are very good. Come back to India, you see all the potholes. Fantastic economic opportunity here. I mean, this country is going to grow. We are going to have not 5.5, we are going to touch 10. We don't going to go back to the 1.6 things. Because, the economic order is connected to all of those things. So we have 26 crore school children, which takes us to the jobs aspect. We urgently need jobs. We have the climate crisis, we have the jobs crisis. Jobs crisis first. We think, we don't know which one to address first because both are so important. But we normally say that climate will be there. Let's deal with jobs. We urgently need jobs for 3 categories of people in India. One, the educated youth. Now, you're not out of your B school students in India, but once you're out, you need jobs. The educated youth, the less educated farm hands. They are moving from the agri economy, which is long gone, but 55% of India are still in the farm economy. The farm economy has been wiped out in 20th century. We are 22 years into the 21st century. We are still 55% of India, which is about 80 crore people are in farming, and they are committing suicide. Right now, we see in Kerala, if you travel on that Alappuzha Changanasheri road, you have tons of paddy harvested and lying by the roadside. But in Kerala, we don't know how to process it. So nobody wants that paddy. We all want packaged rice. So that's the farm crisis. So less educated farm hands who are going to move into the office, the urban economy, the industrial economy, will need jobs. And number 3, women. India has one of the least proportions in the gender equation at the workplace. Only 19.5, take 20. 20% of women only work in India, which is a shame, So we need jobs for educated urban youth. We need jobs for the farm hands who are moving into the industrial service economy, and we need jobs for women. So these are 2 major markers. Population, without which you don't need to make anything if there is no population. And 2, when you have the population, we need jobs. If we don't have jobs, what happens is people are always attracting talent. The best companies attract talent within a country. Globally, the best talent is attracted by global companies. Look at FedEx. FedEx is the largest courier company. It has got 700 plus aircraft, which makes it actually bigger than Emirates. If it were an airline, FedEx would be the largest airline in the world, because Emirates has only a few hundred aircraft. FedEx is 700 plus. Who heads FedEx? Somebody from Trivandrum, Raj Subramanian, who studied in Loyola, who is only 53 years. The best talent goes elsewhere when we don't provide jobs at home. The best talent from Kerala, nearly 5,000. And about the Mandamare, left India. Everybody else has been taken by Canada, UK, Australia, all. So these 2 markers I'd like to put in your mind, jobs and population. With that, I think my time's run out. Sorry, I must have extended rules.
Thanks to KMA for this invitation, and Joe for that sparkling intervention, which has, lightened the mood a bit. To add to what Joe said, I would advise the youngsters here, yes, of course, before even studying further, get married, migrate to another country, you may end up becoming Prime Minister or leader of the country. It's quite possible, taking up from Mr. Raj Subramanian, who is from Thiruvananthapuram, the city in which I was born and I studied. You take examples like Indira Nooyi, who is the daughter of a state bank officer and who studied in Chennai. And I don't think she would have ever imagined, while she was a student, that she would end up as the CEO of a multinational company. So, in a larger sense, one of the key points which I thought I should make is that we call ourselves mostly describe our economy as an emerging economy, but there are perceptive observers like Dr. Y.V. Reddy and others who say actually we are re-emerging economies because we had at some point of time the same stature that we have in certain areas of the global economic scene right now, and certain other areas where we aspire to be world leaders at some point of time, maybe not in the distant future, but in another 20 or 25 years' time. We should always remember that we had a profile and a stature about 250, 300 years ago, where we and China, India and China, had about 17.5 to 50% of global trade in total. And because of the errors of history, because of certain developments that occurred in the past, our stature, economic stature had undergone a diminishing profile. But right now, given the global economic scene, we can rightfully claim that we have sort of arrived, India has sort of arrived on the global economic scene without doubt, despite the warts and all which we are all aware of. And one pointed fact of economics, macroeconomics, which we should remember at this time of the discourse, is that India has overtaken UK as the world's fifth largest economy. So US, China, Japan, Germany, and then it was UK. And now India has overtaken UK as the world's largest economy. That is one of the most important developments when we discuss this new world economic order. The other dimension of the world economic order, in my view, is that there is definitely a shift in the balance of power from the West to the rest. The US is still the world's #1 economic power, the superpower, with about $24 or $25 billion of GDP, which is probably about 1/4 of the global GDP, whatever it may be. China is #2 at about $17 or $18 billion. But even to lay observers the global economic scene, it is very evident that at the leadership level in the United States right now, one can easily sense that there is a sort of vacuum in visionary leadership being there at the US, in the US at the helm of affairs. I would tend to submit that till the time of Obama, maybe we thought that the US had the leadership potential to provide the kind of strategic vision that a global superpower or a global economic power should have. But afterwards, I don't think the US has been able to put up people or to bring up people with that kind of leadership quality, where the rest of the world will feel confident that here is somebody who can lead the superpower and lead the global economic order so that there is peace and development for everybody in the world. And peace and development is indivisible. At the end of the day, we cannot have a situation where peace is there, development is there in one part of the world, and it is not there in another part of the world. It has to be there in almost all parts of the world so that peace and development is indivisible in that sense. So there is a shift of power is taking place. This shift of power is taking place in favor of Asia, in favor of China, in favor of India as well. That is one important aspect of it. The second aspect of the global economic order is that from globalization, because of recent developments in the strategic or the international order, the conflict in Ukraine, there is now talk of deglobalization of at least the financial sector. 20 years ago, the world was flat. Now the world is no longer considered to be flat, at least as far as the financial sector is concerned. Arvind Subramanian, in a recent article in Business Standard about a week ago, had written that there is a case for a structured deglobalization of the financial world and financial order. So he is making out a case for not only deglobalization or accepting it as a fact, he is saying that there is a need for a structured deglobalization so that it doesn't lead to destabilization. That is another important aspect that we have to bear in mind. The third aspect arising out of the conflict in Ukraine is the diminishing trust in international financial structures or financial organizations. The SWIFT, for instance, the US has imposed sanctions on Russia is associated with Russia. US has barred Russian entities from access to SWIFT. SWIFT is the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, which is an essential means of financial transmission, financial exchange of information, financial transfer of money, and that has been barred to Russia. And now Russia, China, and at least 60 other countries are trying to set up a separate messaging system, which is an alternative to SWIFT. So things have come to such a pass that on account of sanctions, there is diminishing trust in the international financial sector as a whole, international financial structure as a whole. That is the third aspect of the new world economic order. The fourth thing that is emerging very clearly is that if you consider economics as macroeconomics as an issue, as a problem, the question papers for different countries are essentially different. It is not the same question paper that is given to all the countries. The question papers are different. Therefore, the answers should also be different and it cannot be uniform. This also has to be understood that one size fits all will not work. It doesn't work anywhere, but it works least of all in the field of economics because each country has to tailor its own solution, its own its own answer to the questions that it faces on the macroeconomic front. Where do we stand in this scheme of things? 2-3 more years. India, as I said, is on the cusp of a major economic transformation. We have, on the whole, got it right, including, we shouldn't forget, the fact that 1996-97 Southeast Asian currency crisis, we escaped unscathed on the whole when Dr. Bimal Jalan was the governor of the Reserve Bank of India. Like the Southeast Asian currencies, the Indian rupee also came under pressure. But then I remember him saying, even at that point of time, that we don't have to worry because we have not made our currency fully convertible. We are still not convertible on the capital account. There are controls in place. And with regard to reserves, he said our fridge is full, 96-97, not 91. So that is one important development which we overcame without being scathed too much by those developments. 2008, again, Dr. Y.V. Reddy was RBI governor. And globally, most of the major economies were affected, but India was unaffected even during that time. We were decoupled from the world because our share of international trade is in exports, it's about 2.5 and imports maybe about 1.5. It is about 2 or 3% totally. So that may be one of the reasons. But the fact of the matter is that our government borrowing is almost 90% denominated in Indian rupees. There is no government debt, unlike in Sri Lanka or any other country. Government debt denominated in foreign currency, which would have put us under any sort of pressure on account of international developments. And with the advent of the fiat currency system, whereby you don't have to keep reserves for issuance of currency. If your national debt is denominated in your domestic currency, in your national currency, unless inflation becomes a big issue, it doesn't matter what is the amount of currency that you infuse into the system. Most of the developing countries will have to infuse large amounts of money, will have to go for deficit financing. And in that sense also, we are on a better wicket. We have had reforms, IBC, GST, and a lot of other changes, which I think are essential conditions, preconditions for India to make the next leap of faith into the real big league and also improve the per capita income and the living standards of millions and crores of people. We have to also remember when we talk about the fifth largest economy in the world, the per capita income of India, national income of India, is just $2,200 US. China's is 12,500 US dollars. The US has got about maybe 65,000, 60,000. UK is about 42,000 US dollars. So we are at a stage of development where from 2,500, we have to increase the national income, for which certain preconditions which are necessary have been set up to take this per capita income from 2,500 to maybe at least 10,000, 12,000, for which I think India is well poised to enter that phase of development, and the necessary conditions having been set, except for minor, irritants like the inflation, which is a supply side phenomenon. The current inflation of about 7% is mostly to do with the supply side. If we get over this hump of inflation and are able to maintain a growth rate of 6 or 7% for the next about, say, 7 to 8 years continuously, I think we would have been well and truly on to the path of the next leap of growth that is required to lift our people who are below the poverty line to above the poverty line, and also increase per capita national income to levels which we aspire for, maybe about 10,000 US dollars. So I would like to end my comments on this optimistic note that here is an economy with intrinsic strengths. Here is an economy with a lot of things going in its favor. If we are able to maintain this momentum and get the game right, maybe control inflationary pressures inside the economy, we would have achieved our objective of growth with equity, which I think is the larger purpose of our economic journey. Thank you.
So thank you very much. I think that our time is a bit in short supply. So I'll dispense with the second half. Is that okay? Okay, I will go to questions. Yeah, okay. So questions. Please identify yourselves and mention the name of panelists who would have to answer the question.
I'm Sri Kumar, a retired state bank PGM. My question is to my own boss, Mr. Adigesu. So today, incidentally, this is the 6th anniversary of not ban currency not working. Today is 8/11/2022. On the same day in 2016, Modi has done it. I'm not expecting a political answer from you. You can be free, and can we say that we have achieved the goals from that? I'm seeing instead of the old 500 rupees and 1,000 rupees not, I'm seeing 2,000 rupees not now in currency in bulk, in spite of all these digital banking and digital initiatives. So somewhere I'm confused. Can you remove this confusion?
Yeah, I should try to approach the issue of demonetization. There are two aspects to it. One is, of course, that it caused pain to a lot of people at that time because it came without much of notice. But if you look at the developments that have taken place subsequently, GST, for instance, came. The formalization of the economy has led to positive results. And this is not a question of being politically correct, but what I'm saying is that if GST collections today are an average of 1.5 lakh crore per month, there is increasing realization that you have to do transactions through after accounting for it in the proper way, in real estate transactions, even in a city like Thiruvananthapuram, when we talk into individuals, prices of real estate have not skyrocketed after demonetization. Why is it that it has not skyrocketed? Because there is, I think, a realization that earlier it was taken as part for the course that 50% will be in black and 50% will be in white. So that was taken as something which even you and I, who wear government service, would probably do as a matter of routine because that was the practice. But now I find that there is some kind of reluctance to account for things in black, as we call it. And I would say that demonetization was part of a process of formalization of the economy. To that extent, demonetization was a measure, I would say, that which was not out of place in the overall scheme of things. Even though in actual, in terms of currency in circulation, let me also put it, which has come in the public domain, 17 lakh crore was the currency in circulation at the time of demonetization. Now currency in circulation is 30 lakh crore. I am Anil Palan. It's you, sir, Joseph. You mentioned about the issues you have been facing with the farming. So my question is, does the Land Reforms Act have its own impact on the issues which you have been facing now?
Yes, the land reforms, you must be thinking about, the question would be about Kerala in particular, right? Because many other states don't have it. Yes, it has, but that is not the only problem. For those of you in the audience who are not aware of land reforms, Kerala had these land reforms which the left party's speed has been the biggest change, has been the biggest factor in bringing a sort of equality in Kerala, which is apparently more than the other states. But it has also done something to the to people who held large properties. They have now been restricted to growing only 6 different crops, if I'm not wrong. Rubber, coffee, cardamom, cashew, and 2 others. Tea. Yeah. So you can't do anything else on that plantation. So that's half the story. The other story is we once had, I'm saying worldwide, we once had the agri economy. Now the agri economy has gone. We don't need, I don't know how many of you sitting in this hall can know this. India has too much food. One of India's problems is overproduction of food. Believe this or not. What we are doing in India is, before the farmer sows, we know we don't need it. In Punjab or in Haryana or in Uttar Pradesh, before the farmer is sowing for the new crop of rice, wheat, or sugarcane, we know we don't need this. From around 2004, every FCI godown in India has been full. There is no more space to stock food grains. So before the farmer starts his work, we know that. Please don't make the country's appeal to them. Please don't make more food grains. We have no place to stock it. If you travel around the country, you'll see that because FCI godowns are full, the grains are stored in the field itself. It is covered with tarpaulin for a few weeks or a few months. The cattle, pigs, rats, everything will eat that because it is simply covered with tarpaulin. By that time, it is time for the farmer for his next crop. And he needs this thing to be taken away from his farm. So what does the government do? First thing, after he produces it, he can't sell it. Like the paddy in Kerala. It's lying on the roadside, it just go to waste. Kutanad farmers have cultivated paddy, they have harvested, it is lying on the road, nobody wants it. They'll do it again next year, we already know, next year also nobody wants it. So government gives them fertilizer subsidy, which has gone to 1,30,000 crores this year. 1,30,000 crores, highest ever fertilizer subsidy, which is 1/4 of what we spend on our military. So the crop is there. The farmer needs space to go for the next crop. What does the government do? The government takes all that, puts it into trucks, drives much of that to the nearest sea coast to dump it in the sea. India throws out officially 3 million tons of food grain every year because we don't need it. The nation's appeal to farmers is, for heaven's sake, can you do something else? Don't make this. Because I give you a subsidy to buy your seeds. I give you a subsidy to plant. I give you a subsidy for pesticides. I give you a subsidy for fertilizer. Then you harvest it and you try to sell it in the market. Nobody wants it. And then what do I have to do as government? I need to give you a MSP, an MSP, meaning a minimum subsidy price, minimum support price, MSP. I buy it from you because nobody else is buying. And then what do I do with it? My FCI godowns are full. I have to dump it somewhere. I drive it on trucks using what? My precious foreign exchange to buy the petroleum which runs the trucks. This is India's problem. Plantation crops are a small part of that. Whereby Kerala farmers are restricted, planters are restricted, not farmers. Kerala planters are restricted because of what you mentioned. But India's bigger problem is this. 55% of Indians are doing this. Imagine 55% of Indians are doing this. To give an analogy, imagine in your house there are 10 members. 55% is 5.5 of them. 5.5 members of the family are in the kitchen cooking. Only 4.5 people go out and work. So you get 4.5 incomes coming in, shared by 5.5 people. We have long realized we don't need 5.5 people to be in the kitchen. Only one person will do. The others can go. But India has not been able to take the farm sector workforce out. So we remain a poor country partly because of that. Because the world over, nobody needs to produce food grains anymore. Now, many of you will be thinking, then why is there poverty in the country or in the world? If there is so much food grain, why is there poverty? The answer is, it cannot be two reasons. One, food, that's my theory, I put it this way. Food cannot be faxed. I live in Kanjirapalli. You live in, most of you live in Cochin. Now imagine, my family is starving. And you in Cochin, you're very rich, urban, and you're going to bed, and you have 4 chapatis left, and you want to throw it the next morning. And you tell me, oh Joe, you're starving, please come and take my 4 chapatis. Can I come from Kanjirapalli and take it? No. Can you come and give it to me? No. Food cannot be faxed. It's like drought in Odisha, floods in Mumbai. Can you fax the water to Odisha? If we could, fantastic. Food is like that. We know tomatoes are going for 50 paisa in Manipur per kilo. I'm sitting in Cochin. I can't go and take it for 50 paisa from Manipur. So food has to be grown somewhere near that. Transportation, logistics, everything will add to the costs and it cannot be given away. Nor can people be given food for free. No government can do it. So there's no point growing more and more. It's like this. I'm not driving a Mercedes today. It's not that there's a shortage of Mercedes in the country. It's just that I can't afford a Mercedes. That's the same case with food. It's not that India does not have food, but Indians cannot afford food. If I produce more paddy, it will be with me because no Indian can buy it. I will throw it. I'm not going to give it free because I have incurred a cost. The government has incurred a cost. It cannot go on. We may do things like gimmicks, like giving a kit free for everybody. At what cost? Somebody is bearing the cost. So food cannot be grown free, given free. If you grow it, you are responsible. Please take responsibility before you cultivate. But if you value add like Aju is doing, fantastic. Anybody who can process any food, papaya, coconut, you name it, ginger, pepper, anything, he does all the pippering and all that. You do anything of this, you will succeed anywhere in the world, but just don't grow crops. It is a liability for the growers to the government, to the entire country, because of the subsidies that we give. I hope I.
Which has a large impact on global economy.
one thing which you said was a single ship to disrupt the world. Suppose Putin drops the Turkish bomb on Ukraine, what are likely impact on the world economy? Can be answered. It's a tough question to answer. We've lived through Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It had impact for decades to that particular place. But today we are worse than that because we've got the nuclear capability. Many countries, including Pakistan, has that. We believe North Korea has it. So I think the threat to the global economy is much more today. The dirty bombs are getting dirtier.
Since Ukraine has a huge impact on the food supplies for Europe and a lot of the other countries. If you look at all the vegetable oil that's coming to India, all the sunflower is grown in Ukraine. So anything serious happening to Ukraine will have a huge food related. I don't know anything about other products, but in respect to food, because that's a country that's growing a lot of food for the world. In the respect, especially Europe, India, in terms of some of the sunflower and a few other commodities that come to India, definitely it'll have impact. I mean, as it is, we are seeing that with all the food inflation primarily for us is because of the challenge in Ukraine. So we have wheat and other things, but when it comes to a lot of the commodity, we depend on Ukraine and countries around the area. So, and the shipping cost and some of the things have also affected. Fuel costs have gone up. So that is even without dirty bomb, but once that happens, it could be important.
One last question.
Just one point to what he said, because there are answers in the crowd. So there is a book, Radical Uncertainty, co-authored by Mervyn King, former governor of the Bank of India. There is a book worth reading in the context of this question. I would tend to think that what would be the consequence is something which is coming within this definition of radical uncertainty, which that book talks about.
Good evening, I'm Jayachandran from Heads Group. I'm a senior vice president there. My question is to Adhikeshwaran sir. Is dollar rupee rate, rupee has crossed 81 now. What is going to have the impact of Indian economy going forward?
The dollar rupee rate of 82 and now it has come down below 82, 81, 90, whatever. Traditionally, we have been looking at a depreciation of the rupee as something which is negative or bad, but there are positive aspects to the depreciation. Number one is like people like Synthite, which is the world's largest manufacturer of oleoresins, exporting to the world outside, they definitely stand to gain. So your export competitiveness goes up. More important than that, if you are a serious student, a student of foreign exchange movements, the thing to look at is what is called the real effective exchange rate, RER, which is published by RBI on its website. So what RBI does is apply the inflation differential between countries with which India has got trade, arrive at the rate, applying the inflation differential on a 30 currency basket. So there is a 30 currency RER. There is a 6 currency RER. On both these calculations right now, the rate, dollar rupee rate is actually should be higher than 82, which means the rupee is overvalued even at these, rates, 82 and 82. I'm not saying that the rupee will depreciate further. Therefore, actually, we should be prepared for some more competitiveness for rupee if we are speaking about an export, dependent or an economy which is dependent on exports for its growth. So that is another dimension. So I wouldn't say it is good or bad, but if you are seriously interested, please have a look at this aspect also. Thank you.
When I said jobs and climate, two crises, we have jobs crisis and the climate crisis. I couldn't spend a minute extra on that climate thing. For the benefit of youngsters, we talk about climate as though it's something happening in Brazil or New Zealand or somewhere. But actually, it's right at home. It's happening here. In case you didn't notice, I noticed because my job is that to look at other people's work. Journalists don't do any work. We look at other people and comments. So because I do that, I observe this. You know the place called Puravelangad? It will be 50 kilometers from here or less. Something shocking happened there just 4 days back in terms of climate change. There's a school cultural festival, not festival, but competition, Jilla, Vidyabhyasa Jilla competition. And the sports meet were happening in a school at the same time, cultural activities and sports. One girl was playing badminton. She was not a sunstroke, but she swooned and fell because of the extreme temperature in Kurupadangar last Friday. That's 4 days back. And she was being carried to the school before being taken to the hospital. And in any case, sunlight is considered bad for us today because the ozone layer is gone and you have UV rays coming and all that. So she was being carried into the school. 10 minutes later, there is a heavy downpour for about 10 minutes only. And the clay modeling competition was happening in the school. Guess what? The contestants had finished their clay modeling stuff. They had created the sculptures, whatever. The judges were walking in. And the school was flooded. All the clay models were washed out. Extreme heat took floods in 10 minutes flat, 50 kilometers from the spot. This is here. I mean, climate change is very much here. It has such a huge impact on our lives. Another 4 degrees, many cities in the world will become unlivable. Delhi is touching 50 degrees. I mean, 20 years back, Chennai at 40 degrees was the country's leader. Now, many cities are touching 50. Becomes 54, scientists tell us you can't live there anymore. It's a matter of 4 more degrees. So this is having a big marker for the rest of our lives. It's not a small thing. Jobs crisis, climate crisis, which one to tackle first? Up to us.
So thank you very much. It was a wonderful evening. Every good thing has to come to an end. So I had wonderful fellow panelists, and they highlighted very, very important things. And Mr. Aju was talking about the challenges being faced by the globe, and also he was presenting that these challenges are definitely opportunities for India. Mr. Joe was focusing on the importance of the population, the people, and also importance of education. Mr. was talking about the resilience of our financials, our banks and other financial institutions, and highlighting various other important points. And see, India, in spite of all the meltdowns all around, is keeping the fort. And let us hope that the governmental policies, which had been very progressive over the years, maybe from 1990, 91 onwards, that is helping us a lot. And as was exemplified by Mr. Arigeshwaran, we could survive a number of crises in the past. And let us hope that India will be able to survive this scare as well. So thank you very much for the authorities, the office bearers of KMA for inviting us, and my fellow panelists. It was a wonderful time. Thank you, Fernando.
Thank you, sir. It was indeed a brilliant session. There are a lot of points that I've noted down. I'm not going to paraphrase on whatever they said, that brilliantly spoke, articulated, and there are a lot of things that it was informative, it is inspiring, and it is highly thought-provoking and scary. And I'm sure that the youngsters will listen to the advice of what is given the panelists. It is indeed, we are indeed honored and privileged to have all these great speakers. And I would only like to profusely thank the moderator and the panelists for sharing the thoughts of wisdom with us. Thank you very much. I only have some announcement to make. One is the 65th Foundation Day celebration is going to be held on the 18th of November from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. There are 3 sessions honoring CSR initiatives, C2C, KMA Cricket League, honoring our past president, and many more. And KMA quiz called Quest, that is latest not yet finalist, that also will be having soon, and leader insight session. What next from India's only profitable airport by Mr. S. Suhas, IAS, Managing Director of CR on 24th. Same function, we are honoring Mr. Madhu S. Nair, CMD, Cochin Shipyard, for the great achievement. INS Vikrant is an aircraft carrier constructed by the Cochin Shipyard Limited for the Indian Navy. We are proud of the fact that he is our Kerala Management Association Managing Committee member. And on December 8th, we have a book review. The name of the book is Afternoons, a memoir from Padma Vibhushan, Dr. A.S. Ganguly, former chairman of Hindustan Liver. I must thank Mr. B. Nair for organizing. This is a hybrid meeting. And on the 40th annual convention, that's our flagship event, scheduled to be held on 12th and 13th of January, and theme, the next generation of communication and its impact on business. Chairman is none other than our own Senior Vice President, Mr. A. Balakrishnan. Please mark your calendar all these days, and timely reminders will be sent to you regarding all this. And with this, I request our Honorary Secretary, Mr. Aljis Khalid, to propose vote of thanks.
President Nirmala Lilly, our distinguished panelist and moderator, Chairman of Program Committee, galaxy of past presidents of KMA, Managing Committee members, KMA members. I'm sure all of you will agree that this was yet another excellent program of KMA. Please give a loud applause for that. Today, we had one of our very distinguished bureaucrats moderating and asking leading questions to 3 eminent panelists from diverse backgrounds, starting with the king of taste and aroma, Mr. Aju Jacob. Then we had a seasoned senior journalist from the 4th estate, who is now a YouTube sensation, Mr. Joe Esapre. And of course, we also had highly reputed banker from our own state, Mr. S. Adikeshavan. We couldn't have asked for more. Am I right? Let me first thank former Additional Chief Secretary, Mr. James Verghese, IAS, for so nicely asking leading questions. The 3 eminent panelists to bring out the best about the new global economic order and its social impact for us in India. All 3 of you, thank you, sir. All 3 of you did a fantastic job. And I must confess, Vibhu, that it is one of the best panel discussions so far. It is indeed a great honor to have all 3 of you together in KMA's platform to discuss what affects all of us through economics and economy. I loved it, sir. Thank you very much. Let me thank Mr. Aju Jacob for his time today. I've heard a lot about you, sir, from my good friend, Mr. Nayanan Philip, especially on your vision and farsightedness and how you revitalized the 40-year-old family business to fire from all cylinders to make everyone proud and also stimulate all 5 senses of taste, smell, feel, even the eyesight and the visual presentation of the food for the world to say, wow, so that everybody could hear it. On behalf of KMA members, a big thank you to you, sir. Truly honored to have you with us, Mr. Joe Escaria, who is synonymous with the much viral YouTube Joe Matrix View, that I eagerly look forward to watch each edition. It was very nice to have you discuss all about the original avatar for 4 decades as a business journalist in Economic Times. Sir, as usual, you brought a completely different and interesting perspective to this panel discussion. Thank you for telling us about the markers, especially the population and the jobs part, shrinking population, the job part. In the company of the much admired industrialist and the loved journalist to defend the tough questions of our senior and respected bureaucrat, we also had a reputed banker with 360 view of the financial service industry, Mr. S. Adikeshavan, who has seen it all and know how economy plays with stride and also create havoc to impact all of us socially and also economically and in their interaction. Thank you, sir. All of them agreed on one part. There is a dark cloud around the globe, but the light of the North Star is definitely facing India. Saying that, on a lighter note, the prescription from the journalist is to procreate, and that of the banker is to migrate. And I'm sure the industrialist is laughing that because all of them will eat, and hope that all of them will eat value-added processed food. I will be failing in my duty if I don't profusely thank KMA Senior Vice President and elected Managing Committee Member, Mr. A. Balakrishnan, Executive Director of GOA, for conceiving this panel discussion, arranging it, and inviting the panelists and the moderator to finally put all the ingredients put together to make it a wonderful session. With ABK on the job, I am sure the outcome is guaranteed to be a success. Thank you, ABK, for introducing the panelists so well and giving an overview of the global economy. Thank you, ABK. The program committee chair and KMA Vice President, Mr. Bibu Kunuran, has come out with excellent programs week after week. All KMA members eagerly look forward to these sessions. And let me confess, Bibu, as I said, this is one of the best. And thank you for arranging this topic on economy, which was missing for right through. Thanks also for welcoming everyone for this August gathering. Our President Nirmala should be specially thanked for her presidential address and for setting the tone for the evening and beautifully articulating the excellent programs of KMA in the last 6 months. Especially the new initiatives of Campus to Corporate Cricket League, and many more to come. I'm sure, like the famous last song of that Frank Sinatra that he sang in the public and etched in his tombstone, the best is yet to come. Wait for it. Thanks to all the past presidents, managing committee, and KMA members for attending today's session. We have all the halls full. And now for some announcements for the next week. On 18th November, KMA will be celebrating its 65th Foundation Day, the theme of celebrating the past, present, and the future. Session 1 will start at 3 p.m. with the presentation of certificates of KMA Campus to Corporate program organized by Chairman Mr. Anil Verma. It is a CSR initiative of KMA, and the chief guest is one of our senior most member, Mr. A.S. Narayanamurthy, advisor, RG and Price and Company, Chartered Accountant. This will be followed in the session 2 with the recognition of the winners of the first ever KMA Corporate Cricket League. The chief guest of this session is Mr. T.C. Matthew, former Vice President of BCCI,
And guest of honor will be Advocate SAA Nawaz, IRS Honorary Secretary of Rajiv Gandhi Sports Center, Kochi. The icing on the cake is the session number 3, in which KMA will honor all our past presidents and also our vendors who created this iconic building. It will be done by Chairman Managing Director of FACT Limited, Mr. Kishore Rungta, who will address us on the same evening. It will be followed by networking dinner. All members are invited and requested to attend this important event. Thanks to our program sponsors, Medivision Diagnostic Services you can trust, sitting here, for the support to make our programs affordable for all our members. I would like to place on record and thank the KMS Secretary team led by Executive Director Lieutenant Jojo Jake and his team members. Thank you all for doing a wonderful job. Before I conclude, I request our President Nirmala to come forward and formally hand over the specially created memento to the moderator. The picture and the memento is for today's session for you to cherish it. Cherish your visit to KMA. Now I request the moderator to hand over mementos to the panelists. I request Senior Vice President ADK and Program Chair Vivu Kumaran to join for the photograph. Thank you, one and all. Have a nice evening. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.